What's up YouTube? And for today's video I got a season 3 top 10 loadout video, and let's just get straight into it. So first is the AMAX and Farah. Well, I've been trying to get a video recorded, but I got a good gameplay, but I forgot to record it, so it's out of the bin. I mean, it's in the bin. So I'll try to record one as soon as I can and put it out. So for the AMAX, I used a mono suppressor, quite obvious why. The Zodiac for the max, damage range, velocity, and recoil control. Commit a foregrip for recoil stabilization and aiming stability without being detrimental to your ADS speed. Then your VLK for that recoil control and zoom level, and the 45 round mag to maximize ammo. And use the T-pose vertical, as that is very precise. Then the FAR, which is like the new mini FFAR, like the FFAR but worse. This is the best close range weapon, in my opinion. I think the Bullfrog is a close one. The LC10 I haven't really tried out since I haven't leveled. And the Mag 10 is just, yeah, it does. I don't think it's better than the Vulture XL or the Farah or the Bullfrog. But here's the class setup. I used the Groove Suppressor. I mean, quite obvious why. The Spetsnaz RPK barrel for that effective damage range, velocity, and strike speed. This is a deadly combo. Again, you're using this up close, so you could neglect these recoil control, and you don't even need a barrel. But if you want to, you could take out the Serpent Wrap and replace it with the Spetsnaz grip. I use the Serpent Wrap for that ADS time so we could snap faster, as this is a AR SMG. If you find yourself having trouble controlling that recoil though, go ahead and put on the ultralight barrel for that straight speed without hurting your recoil. But I prefer having that bull velocity as well as that effective damage range. I use this Spetsnaz 50 for maximizing ammo without being too detrimental to my ADS like the VDV. Then the Skeletal Stock for that sprint to fire time, ADS firing movement speed, and aim walking movement speed. Then I use EOD Overkill Amp Standard, Semtex, and Heartbeat. You can swap these out depending on your playstyle, but this is the traditional orthodox method. Then the AK Bullfrog. Now the AK, it's pretty tough to control the recoil, but if you're fine with it, this is a class setup. So I would use Groove Suppressor for that sound suppression, vertical recoil control, bolt velocity, as well as effective damage range. The Liberator barrel for maximizing the bolt velocity. Spetsnaz grip for that recoil control. The backlit 60 round mag for that ammo capacity. But if you feel like the ADS is too slow, switch to 45. And I would not recommend the VDVLs, as it will destroy your ADS time. Then the Actual Arms 3X for that zoom level, but it has way more visual recoil kick to it. So if you find it so hard to control, like me personally, switch to the Silex Hollow Scout. Now this has a 1.75x magnification while this has a 3, but this is way less vertical visual recoil. So I definitely run the Silex Holocaust. I do not have a reticle, so just use the default. Yeah. Then for the Bullfrog, I use the Groove Suppressor, same reasons. Task Force because it gives you effective damage range, bull velocity, as well as straight speed, the best one. Recoil control, again, the Bullfrog has very little recoil in general, and it in fact gets mitigated using the Spetsnaz grip. Then the Serpent Wrap for that ADS time so you can snap faster, and the PKM stock, I don't know why I'm running that, the Skeletal Stock for that ADS firing movement speed, aim locking movement speed, as well as sprint to fire time. Now, if you feel like you're fine with the recoil, it's butter smooth by default without this Spetsnaz grip, go ahead and put on the 65 round mag for more ammo capacity. But I feel like by default it inherently has so much, I think 50 rounds, so I think I'd rather make it have even less recoil because this has plenty of ammo already. EOD Overkill Amp, Semtex Heartbeat. Then for the Krig and Mag 10. Now the setup, the Krig has very little recoil, and like the AK can both compete for the meta. So I use the Agency Suppressor, same reasons. The Ranger barrel to maximize the bolt velocity. The Actual Arms 3X for that zoom level. It should be really easy to control, unlike the AK, because the Krig has very little recoil. The Field Agent grip for that recoil control, and Snag 60 round to maximize the ammo. Then for the Mag 10, you can swap out for the LC10, and the setup would be the same thing basically, like the exact same attachments, but this is the Mag 10. You can swap those out, but since I do not have the LC10 leveled up, I will be using the Mag 10, which I have the Agency Suppressor, same reasons. Task Force for that effective damage range, bull velocity, as well as straight speed. Field Agent grip to mitigate the recoil, as well as add some more recoil control. The 50 round drum for that ammo capacity without hurting your ADS as much as the salvo. Then the Raider stock for that sprint to fire time, aim locking movement speed, as well as ADS firing movement speed. I would stick away from the combat stock because it doesn't help with your sprint to fire, and you really want that sprint to fire because this weapon, like the PPSH, the new Season 3 SMG, they both have an open bolt delay. So to counter that as much as you can, you would want to run the Raider stock or no stock. But the no stock doesn't give you those pros like these two in the Raider stock. EOD, Overkill, Amped, Semtex, Heartbeat. Then the AMAX and the AK. So the AMAX, same class setup. The AK, I use the Spatnaz RPK barrel for that pros. If you can't control the recoil, I would do the ultralight, like with the Farah. Spatnaz grip to control the recoil. 45 round to give some ammo, but we're using this more as an SMG, so you don't have to necessarily run the backle at 60. But if you feel like you need to, by all means go for it, because if you want to maximize your ammo so you don't have to worry about yourself and get into those predicaments, I think the 45 round is better so you don't lose any ADS time unlike the backlet, but that goes down to preference. The Serpent Wrap for that ADS time to snap on faster because we're using this as like the AK-74U but using an AK-47 weapon. Then the Skeletal Stock for that sprint to fire time as well as those two pros. Now we're building this more like an AK-74U but an AK-47 damage profiles and all around profiles. So this is a solid build. I think the Farah is slightly better, but I need to test this out. Yeah. Then the EOD, Overkill, Amped, Semtex, Heartbeat. Then the Sniper Loadout. So I use the RAM, which the monolithic suppressor, quite obvious why. Ranger for that damage bullet velocity as well as recoil control, damage range. You can neglect these cons because the RAM is still pretty fast. I think its ADS isn't bad at all and its movement isn't that bad. Commando foregrip to help recoil stabilization and aiming stability without penalizing our ADS time. Then 50 round mags to maximize the ammo. And attack laser so that we get that ADS and aiming stability for really no cons. Laser visible is practically useless. Like, it doesn't really mean shit. It's not like a downside to your weapon. For its pros at least. Then the Car 98K mono single guards for that max damage range, both velocity and recoil, and mono because of its sound suppression and damage range. Attack laser for that ADS time, aiming stability, and walking steadiness. Sniper scope, you can run the variable zoom, but I think it penalizes your ADS a bit more, and the zoom level isn't that important because the sniper scope already gives enough. But if you like the variable zoom scope in all snipers, feel free to use it. Then STVOL precision cone for that precise aiming stability. But if you feel like you're fine with it, fine with that little idle sway or that little sway between where your shots precision, go ahead and use the sport cone. But I feel like the ADS is already fast. EOD, Overkill, Amp, Semtex, Heartbeat. Then I use the M4 with the HDR. So for the M4, I use the mono suppressor, no suppression damage range. Stock M16 Grenadier barrel for that damage range, velocity as well as recoil control. Command foregrip for that recoil aiming stability without hurting your ADS time. Then your 60 rounds and maximize ammo. But if you feel like running to 50, by all means run the 50. Then the attack laser for that ADS aiming stability as well as aiming, walking steadiness. But if you want to, feel free to change it to stippled grip tape or no stock. You can, but I feel like the attack laser is the best. Then the HDR where you run the mono suppressor. HDR Pro for net max damage range, velocity as well as recoil control. Attack laser for that ADS. I used a variable zoom scope, so this is one of those weapons that you use like far away. Like if you're in prison and you're just playing for zone, this is the perfect weapon, the HDR. And you want the variable zoom scope so you can snipe people at like 300 meters and 200 plus, all that, those far ranges, so that you can zoom in even further and start like just dropping people down. The Stalker Scout to help with that ADS speed, and that's my HDR build, pretty standard. EOD, Overkill, Amp, Semtex, Heartbeat. Then I use a restock. So the Graw, it's top tier, not meta of course because there's lots of more weapons with a higher TTK. But the Graw is a standard beast, no recoil, has okay damage range, damage profiles. It's just a standard AR that you want to be running. And its arm sight is perfect, so we run restock with fully loaded. So same standard loadout. But I use fully loaded of course because if I need that ammo and I want to run restock and I need some medium ammo, go ahead and use the Graw. Now for the Psychov, I use this, but I would take out this, or actually no, I would take out the 5mm laser probably, and run the fully loaded. But if you want to keep the milliwatt laser and swap it out for the Prizek rear grip, feel free. The Cyclops has been nerfed, but it's still good single. It's probably the best pistol. The only one that could compete is the M19. But then again, I feel like the Cyclops is still better. I still need to level up the M19 to test it out though. So I use the mono suppressor for sound suppression damage range, Thorkin to make it full auto, then 80 round drums to maximize ammo, VLK Prizak for the ADS speed as well as sprint to fire, but if you want to swap it out for the 5mm for that fire accuracy, feel free to, and fully loaded because you want that light ammo. Then EOD restocked amp, since this is restock, it's redundant to run the heartbeat sensor, and I would run the Claymore. So if you're pairing it up with like the M4 and HDR and you're grabbing your restock instead of Ghost, you get like your Claymores get restocked as well as your stun grenades. Now for the Ghost loadout, same class setup, but it's fully loaded. I'll change this. Fully loaded and Semtex heartbeat and Ghost. Then experiment / nostalgia. So this could be like any nostalgia weapons, like maybe the Kilo MP5, maybe you want to run the R9 or any other weapons, or you want to try something new that you don't know is like conspicuous yet, or it's like top tier, people have noticed it. This is something that you would run as like experiment. Let's say you want to test the AUG or M16 and like maybe it's secretly super good. So I'll run it here. I'll run agency silencer, task force barrel, this 3x, field agent grip, and take out this and go for the 45 round. Maybe you want to run that and then run an MP5, or maybe, you know, why not the Cold War MP5 or like the KSP or any of these you can run. And I know Jay Gondon is experimental. He uses the MP5 and he uses the agency suppressor, task force barrel. He uses, I think, the field agent grip, the 50 snag round, and the Raider stock. Yeah, this is your experiment or nostalgia, just one of those have fun ones, or experiment, hence the name. So Semtex, heartbeat, EOD, overkill, amp. You could also swap out your perks. Traditionally, you would run double time or EOD, probably EOD. The cold-blooded is outdated, scavenger is useless, kill chain, again, this is useless. The quick fix, you can use it in Rebirth, but outside in like Verdansk, it's really pointless. Overkill, but if you want to run like Tyler, Ghost, or Restock, and Amp is the only one, or Tracker. So this is something you would experiment. Then Ghost. This could be really any weapon. This is your standard. You don't need ammo in this case, and you just want your Ghost loadout. You just go down, just get into your loadout, go straight down, and use any Ghost weapons. I used a Galil or AMAX in this case, same setup. Again, this isn't fully loaded, so I do not run fully loaded. Then Psychov, I run all of these attachments. I don't need to run fully loaded again. Then EOD, Ghost, Amp, Semtex, and Heartbeat. And this is my top 10 loadout video. And maybe you guys have any suggestions that I can try. I will level up that LC10 and possibly make up a video soon. We'll find out. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Have a great rest of your day or night, whatever time it is. Yeah, peace out.